The World Cup just got 50% bigger overnight. Not a little bigger, not slightly bigger, 50% bigger. And if you're sitting there thinking, I don't even watch football, that's exactly why you need to hear this. Because what's happening in 2026 has never happened in the 96-year history of this tournament. Not once. So let me break down why FIFA World Cup 2026 is without question the biggest sporting event ever put together, and what that actually means for you as a viewer.
Let's start with the basics, because if you're new to football, here's all you need to know. The FIFA World Cup is the Olympics of football, except it's bigger than the Olympics. Over 5 billion people watched the last one. That's almost 2/3 of the entire human population tuning into one event. To put that in perspective, the Super Bowl draws roughly 120 million viewers. The World Cup draws 40 times that. It happens every 4 years. The best national teams from every corner of the world qualify. One country wins, the whole planet watches. Now here's where 2026 breaks everything we knew.
For almost 30 years, the World Cup had 32 teams. That was the limit. 32 countries got to play. Everyone else watched. 2026, 48 teams. That's 16 more countries at the table, 16 more national anthems, 16 more stories. Countries like Uzbekistan, Cape Verde, and Curacao, a small island nation with fewer than 200,000 people, are now competing on the exact same stage as Brazil and France. Think about that. Curacao is now the smallest country ever to qualify for a World Cup. Ever in 96 years of history. And more teams means more games. Way more games. The last World Cup in Qatar had 64 matches. 2026 has 104. That's 40 extra games. Basically, FIFA added an entire extra tournament inside the tournament.
Now here's the part that changes the drama completely. And this is where it gets really interesting. Under the old format, if you finished third in your group, you were done. Pack your bags, go home. No second chances. In 2026, you might still survive. The 48 teams are split into 12 groups. The top 2 teams from every group advance. But here's the twist. The 8 best third-place teams also move on. That means 32 teams reach the knockout rounds instead of 16. In other words, a team could draw every single group game, not win once, and still make it to the round of 32. For the big teams, this means more pressure, more games, fewer nights off. The finalists now have to win 8 matches instead of 7 to lift the trophy. One extra game that could end everything. For smaller teams, this is a lifeline. One good run, one magical performance, and suddenly they're in the knockouts, shocking the world.
Now let's talk about where all of this is happening. 3 countries, 1 tournament. The United States, Canada, and Mexico are co-hosting 2026. This has literally never happened before. In the entire history of the World Cup, no tournament has ever been spread across 3 nations simultaneously. 16 cities, 16 stadiums, 39 days of football. The U.S. alone is hosting 78 of the 104 games, including all the quarterfinals, semifinals, and the final, which takes place on July 19th at MetLife Stadium in New Jersey. Canada and Mexico each host 13 games. And the halftime show at the final? Madonna, Shakira, and BTS. A World Cup final with a Super Bowl-style halftime show. And that's a first, too.
Here's the big picture number that tells you just how enormous this thing is. The World Trade Organization estimated that this World Cup will produce $80 billion in gross economic output. $80 billion! And FIFA itself is expected to pull in close to $9 billion in revenue from this single tournament cycle, compared to $7.5 billion from the entire 4-year period before Qatar 2022. This is not just a football tournament anymore. It's the largest sporting event ever organized on this planet. So what does all of this mean? More teams means more countries with skin in the game, more fans tuning in, more upsets nobody saw coming, more moments that end up in highlight reels forever. The biggest stars in football right now, guys like Vinicius Jr. from Brazil, Kylian Mbappe from France, and the defending champions Argentina, they all have to survive a longer, harder road than any World Cup generation before them. And somewhere in that expanded bracket, a team nobody's talking about is quietly setting up the greatest upset in football history. That's the beauty of making it bigger. Look, the World Cup has always been the one event where the entire world watches the same thing at the same time. 2026 just turned that up to a level nobody's ever seen. 48 nations, 104 games, 3 countries, 1 trophy. If you've never watched a World Cup before, this is the one to start with. If this got you curious, hit subscribe, because we're breaking down every angle of this tournament, the teams, the players, the format, in plain language for anyone.